It's time to do a bit of a pitch. Let me get some context before I bring Isto in. A little bit of context. Isto and I'd say 98% me, because I did all the coding, made a game called Get to Work. And it was shockingly successful. I really didn't do much at all, other than help market it, help with some of the ideas, and put up some of the venture funding. I thought that money was lost. Just being real. I love Isto. I think he's a great guy and a great dev. But I just figured you're throwing money at a game, it won't work. Turns out it did really well. We had a pretty nice indie hit, and we made our money back, and I think we crossed $1 million in sales very recently, which is pretty fucking cool. Congrats to Isto and his team for making that, okay? That means, more important than me making a few percent return, is that Isto, his studio survives and gets to live another day and make more good games, because this is his dream. He quit his job at Microsoft, I believe, to get into this industry. So now we have to figure out what is the next game he's going to make. And so we've had our own personal talks over a while, but he narrowed it down to 2 ideas, I think, maybe 3, I think it's 2, and created prototypes of each. And so he's gonna come on stream and pitch these to you guys. We're gonna ask chat's actual opinions and then do a vote. This vote will be important or not important now at all?
Extremely important, actually. A little bit of context. We actually ran this with our audience, and the ideas were so even, we couldn't do anything with them. Like, it was negligible data because they were so close.
So we're the tiebreakers.
Oh yeah, 100%. We need a larger data set. And so this is actually very, very helpful. A little bit of context. We started out with like 50 ideas. We do a big brainstorming session. HROC was on the call driving to Arizona, I think.
Dude, I remember that. Dude, okay, it was like a brainstorm, and then somebody on your team would be giving an idea, but it would cut out in the middle of their idea, and then it would come back, and you'd be like, what'd you think? And I'd be like, well, that sounds cool.
But we're done phase 1. And we've moved on to phase 2. We've taken basically our experience, market research, looked at what the team can actually build and what we want to make, and we've distilled it down to 3 ideas. A big part of what we're doing now is we're doing the pitches like insanely early. Most people don't do this, and the reason for that is because the development process is crazy. Another big disclaimer is because this is so early, we wouldn't show this to anybody. This is all internal. So there are AI assets. There's a lot of AI slop in here. We will not use it in the final product. What we do is we use them for the pitch ideas because it's so fast. And then as soon as we start the actual project, we basically throw it all out and build it for real. These are the 3 ideas. I've actually pitched Mind the Mountain. If you're an old head, you might have heard this one before. We love this idea, and so we wanted to bring it back. We felt like it was a really great idea. But the other 2 we're also very excited for.
Mind the Mountain.
Mind the Mountain. It's an automation game. Now, this is the one we've spent the most time on. We built like an actual prototype for this. The quality of prototypes is definitely varied between the different projects, but this one, automation is sort of our bread and butter. And this one is kind of similar, but it's vertical automation, physics-based vertical automation. And that just kind of gives you a general idea of what the game might feel like and look like. But let's dive into some details. If you like Satisfactory and Factorio, this is the game for you. And the goal is to reach the top of the mountain. Art style we're going for is semi-realistic, we think, or maybe a mixture of low poly, and you're gonna be playing in 3rd person. Legend has it, an undiscovered ore lies at the top of the mountain. But no dwarf has ever reached the top until now. And you are gonna play as a dwarf.
This
now,
is such a
like I
Stans
said,
game.
it's janky. Yeah, I actually pitched this to Stans, and he was like, yes. 100% get me in on this. Like I said, pretty janky. It's a giant cube. You're gonna have to use your imagination and imagine more vegetation, more cliff faces, more art, or maybe something a little more majestic like this. We don't know, but we'll figure it out if we pick this project. The cool thing about the mountain is there's different biomes. And each biome comes with its own challenges and rewards. There's common ores at the bottom and rare ores at the top. It taps into that little part of your brain that wants to upgrade. Oh, we love it. Now at the bottom, there's lots of vegetation. It's warm, it's easy, it's inviting, but as you go up, it gets harder. It gets colder. Maybe you go into the clouds and there's lightning strikes that you have to deal with. You have to build rods, Tesla rods, to absorb it to protect yourself. And when you get to the highest level, you're obviously really low on oxygen and it's super, super cold. All sorts of interesting challenges, but of course, the higher you go, the better the ores.
It sounds really cool. My one request is, could we call it Minecraft 2? Is that possible? I'm hearing a lot of that from the chat. I think that could be, I feel like then we're in. What do you think the legal challenges are on that?
I think the legal challenges specifically is, Hudat's our lawyer, and we love him.
We do love him. He's busy with his full-time Amazon job, so
yeah. There might be a conflict of interest there.
Get in the way. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay, we'll table that for now.
Let's keep going. So here's sort of a concept of the mountain. So you start on a platform and you have to climb to the resources. There is resources that are on the wall, and you can build this vertical automation into these factories, these assemblers, and they'll drop into these depots. And these depots will earn you money and let you buy stuff. New items, player upgrades, automation upgrades, and the big one I'm going to focus on right now is wood platforms. But of course, all the standard upgrades that you would get in any automation game. So if you get these wood platforms, they let you actually traverse around the mountain. So this becomes your base. That way, you can really quickly travel. And so the more wood platforms you get, the more you start to conquer the mountain. And you're going to build up and up and up. But as you go up, probably, the wood platforms won't be strong enough, won't be, resistant enough. And so you'll have to upgrade those.
Right, they'll break or something when you get to the cold. I see. So you need metal platforms up there.
You're always on this sort of flywheel of upgrading and building and upgrading, thinking about optimization. That's really what this game's all about. Now, we actually prototyped this. We obviously used all of Atrio's stuff because it's about moving quick, but you can kind of have a general sense of what it's looking like. We have items rolling around using gravity. This guy's climbing, he has a stamina bar, and if it runs out, he'll drop to his death. You can board the platform and regain your stamina, and you can sort of look around and see this massive level. It will be 3D. This is obviously 2D. We just wanted to move quick, but we kept going, and we built like a very easy assembly line.
Someone in chat said, so this is the final version. Yeah, this is it.
We're almost done, yeah.
This is it. This is releasing tomorrow. What do you guys think? It's done. This is the full graphics package. This is how it works. It'll be $68 really USD, and there's microtransactions for unlocking the ores.
Yeah, okay, I want to talk about the flaps, because these are kind of cool. So you can kind of see, in Factorio, they have splitters. This would be sort of our version of splitters, is these are timed. And so as you roll stuff down, it lets some of the ores actually travel across, and the other ones would drop down. Right. So there's a lot of really, really cool mechanics that we can play with. No one has really done vertical automation before, and so we could have these buckets moving items up and down. You could drop items down and have these grabbers grab stuff midair. If we go higher up, you could even use cannons to launch stuff into the actual factories themselves. So we're really playing on the verticality.
And
now,
it's
obviously,
all like
when you travel up,
dwarf punk themed, right? It's like everything looks very Gimli underground, but it's all on the side of this mountain. It's all very
exactly. We'd really play with mine carts and that whole theme with pickaxes, mine carts, jewels. Really think Lord of the Rings dwarves. Now, once you go up, obviously challenges like the cold. You have to build heaters. You have to supply all that stuff, keep everything running. Things will be much more logistically challenging to get to the top. Now, what's cool about this, I found this GIF. This is a real thing. I think these monks built an actual temple on the side of the cliff. I could be wrong, but I found this GIF, and you can kind of see just what it might look like to build a network of platforms and stairs along the cliffside.
That's cool.
And it just looks so cool.
That is cool.
Now, one of the things that we're pretty good at, we like to think, is story. And so we would include a story that's told through a walkie-talkie where you would discover, letters from other attempts, and there's a secret at the top that you would discover. Now, because this is so unorthodox, showing this so early, I wanted to include some biggest unknowns. Because we've done a prototype, we're a little bit farther ahead with this one, and so we've come to realize that physics is non-deterministic. And what I mean by that is if you roll a barrel down a ramp and hit a jump, it will probably land at the same spot most of the time, but every once in a while, depending on your frame rate or other factors, it may not land in the same spot, and that's bad for automation. Automation games, if you have a certain input, you want to have an exact same output every single time.
Right.
The engineering brain really, really needs that and wants that. I think the gameplay would suffer if we didn't figure out this issue.
The Reddit posts you would get if 1 out of every 50 barrels rolling down a thing bounced off the side, you would free.
The other thing that people have been mentioning is co-op. Now, we're really interested in co-op, but for this specific game, there's so many moving parts and pieces. Physics across networks is extremely challenging, like insanely challenging. This would double, triple the complexity, and almost assuredly double the dev time. That one's a huge question mark. We've never done, co-op. We've never done multiplayer, and so for us, we don't know.
Nobody in this chat has friends, so don't worry about it. Seems very cool. Yes. I think for automation gamers, what I'm reading from the chat is they're really excited about it. It seems very cool.
That's cool.
The idea of verticality adds a lot to it. The thing I like about it, I'm not really an automation gamer, but the world and the lore seems very cool. And I do like the dopamine rush of imagining I see a big fucking emerald sticking out of the mountain up there, and I'm like, how do I get to that?
All right. Any other questions? We happy to move on?
Yeah, I think we move on. Smugglers in space.
To Smugglers in Space.
Man, they don't look happy. This is a rough job.
AI art, dude. It's here. It's out. It's going to replace us for sure.
Oh, for sure.
Tomorrow. It's ready. This is top notch.
You can put a cover of a box.
Trust and imagination, folks. That's what we need. Okay, right. So Lethal Company, smash hit.
Yes.
Repo, smash hit. Peak, smash hit. People love playing with their friends. They like interacting with their friends. They like having just a medium to interact with their friends. And we thought, they're kind of boring. For us, me specifically, I really wanted a way to interact with my friends, but also to tap into my need to have depth and strategy. I like the challenge of games. I kind of like going just a bit deeper with the gameplay. I like the strategy. I like planning with my friends. I like actually really, really working hard, getting my butt kicked, coming back and learning and getting better. For me, that taps into like my brain. I like that. So we wanted to do a roguelike Faster Than Light. We were thinking if you've played Faster Than Light, it's an older game. So I put in Slay the Spire as, maybe a newer version of that. But think like, Faster Than Light meets Lethal Company. The goal is to smuggle a package across the universe. So you've been given an extremely valuable package to bring to a buyer. Obviously, probably extremely illegal, but because we're dealing with a roguelike, we're not going to try and break the bank or, break the mold here. We're going to stick with the classics that everybody knows. If you've played Slay the Spire, there's this starting map where you get a boss battle. There's merchants, there's quests. I took this and I turned it on its side. That's all it is. The shot is from Faster Than Light.
And it's ours now. Okay? Slay the Spire team, watch the out. If Slay the Spire 2 comes out with this map, it's over for you.
We are definitely picking the most accessible game where the developers have so much money to sue us. We love that. Then you do battle. We love that. Now, again, we prototyped this, and this is kind of what it looks like. You would probably be a funnier character, but you're running around in third person, maybe first person, but that's kind of the idea. Here's the layout of the ship. Now I've color coded it just so you can kind of see the general areas. There's 3 major areas. There is the orange section, the blue section, and the green section. Now the package is somewhere. We would probably put it in the blue section. That becomes important later, but we're gonna ignore that for now. And we're gonna focus on the orange section.
Absolutely nothing about this game is similar to Among Us other than the fact that it's a spaceship and everyone is spamming Among Us.
You guys just love depth and strategy, don't you?
Among Us. There's a spaceship. This must be Among Us.
There's different stations. This is the missile station. So it requires an energy pod and a missile. So you place a energy pod, but you don't have a missile. So we're gonna go to our production side. Here, we're actually going to generate more energy pods. So you can see here, you're running around, you're activating, and then I did a time lapse. You can see it's a bit chaotic. Everyone's running around. The ship gets on fire if it takes damage. Things are going crazy. You're building. Kind of think like Overcooked vibes for part of it.
Sure, there's a lot going on. Too much to do.
There's a lot going on. There's a lot of movement.
You're yelling at your friends.
A big part of the strategy we sort of think is going to work is each person is probably going to have their own section. There's still that cross movement, but if you're responsible for repairing the ship, there's a repair room. So you have to go and generate a shield booster, and then you have to go and get the energy pods and place them into the repair center. And if you do that, you can actually restore, health points to your hull. Now, once you're done production, you can actually load up the missiles and get ready to fire. Put that in. There's a bit of a cooldown. There's all sorts of interesting mechanics, but you're prepping to do battle. Here's where it gets interesting, and here's where we think we can have a bit of a more streamable game.
Okay. You'll
notice that in our airlock control, there's a map of the ship. We are currently in the orange section. You can see that blue is on fire. Now, just imagine, just for the sake of brevity, that A1 is on fire. You can see that I'm close to A1, and you'll also notice that C1 and C2, there's no controls for that. What these are is either airlocks. So if a room's on fire, how do you put it out? Well, you could use water, but you're on a spaceship. So the best thing to do is deplete it of oxygen. So each room can self-contain itself and open up the airlocks to space and put out the fire. Unfortunately, the game is proximity chat. So you can only talk to your friends if you're really close. So if A1 is on fire and you press it, we're gonna pull this, and I go to A1, if my friend is in the room, it locks the doors and shoots him out to space. Now, luckily, there are ways to recover. You might see your boy bumping on the walls outside. But we're going to add mechanics where it's going to be a bit of a pain. You got to build a tether and get them and bring them back. But you also have to recognize that they're gone. So, there's going to be proximity chat where you can hear them muffled, boom, help me, oh no. And then you got to go and actually discover them and find where they are and pull them back in.
Squeaks would hate me in this game, bro. I'd be a menace.
Now, because this is more strategy focused, there needs to be a battle section. So we discovered prototyping this that we think the direction we're going to go is there's going to be turns. So you have 3 minutes to prep everything. You load the missiles, you do your repairs, you generate your pods, and you don't lose anything. So if you leave, if you generate 10 pods and then don't use them, they'll still be there the next turn. But let's say you have 3 minutes, you load the pods, and then the battle, like everything plays out. Kind of like Slay the Spire when you play a card. So if you've loaded 10 missiles, they'll shoot them, and then they have a pre-recorded sequence where they attack back, you take damage, stuff gets set on fire, etc., etc. And then you can come up with a plan to deal with that. Because we're smuggling stuff, if you take too much damage in the wrong place, the package, which has a scary alien, might get out. And then you have to deal with that as well. And if they take damage, you might lose money, and then you won't be able to use that money to, you know, buy stuff during that
your
run.
ship. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So there's going to be this fun mechanic where there's this alien, and obviously you could kill it, but then there's no point in you doing the smuggling. So there's this interesting dynamic where you don't really need guns, because why would you kill the alien that you're trying to, you know, what's the point of smuggling? So we thought that was kind of interesting and cool. So what the alien will do, we'll see. Maybe it's like, you know, this kind of alien, or maybe you're smuggling angry chickens. Sky's the limit.
This one, options.
There's a lot to explore.
Can you date the alien, I'm being asked?
You guys are animals. Come on, guys.
Can I spin a gotcha wheel for a hotter alien?
Now, let's get into the actual Slay the Spire part. So let's say at the end of the turn, you know, your boy's floating out into space, you get ship augments. This is the part that I think is going to create a ton of replayability and a lot more depth and strategy. So kind of like Slay the Spire, you have a deck of augments. And so let's say you have 50 cards. It's going to pull up 3 cards. You and your friends have to pick what you're going to choose. Maybe you apply weak, or, you know, maybe you have Carnage or Rampage or all the different mechanics that Slay the Spire has.
There's 3 options and we get to pick one?
Oh, yeah.
I love that. Picking one of 3 things, dude.
We love it.
It's a money printer.
It's so good. It's so good. So obviously we have to get this right. You know, you got to be able to like predict what cards are going to come up and like plan part of that strategy. You know, think about your deck and build it, and you know, pull stuff and use the augments. Maybe you can use more than 3. Who knows? But really, we want to focus on the Slay the Spire type stuff between the different turns. Now, if you win a level, you obviously get to collect an upgrade. You got to pick a card to add to your deck. Classic. We love picking 3 things.
We do love that.
But we're gonna have, you know, ship parts. Maybe you give lasers. Maybe you get missiles. Maybe you get like, I don't know, tethers. All sorts of cool things. And you also get permanent upgrades like, you know, extra energy or extra shields or extra hull HP. I think the thing that excites me the most is we just sat down for 3 minutes and the ideas just kept flooding. There were so many good ideas on what we can do. Maybe you heal every time you open an airlock, so one of your psycho friends just starts pulling the airlocks and hopes for the best, and everybody just gets launched into space. Maybe there's a comm unit, so one person like at the starboard side of the ship can actually use the comms and like talk to everybody else. Maybe every third attack adds shields. Maybe you guys can all move faster. Maybe you can sacrifice somebody for double damage for that turn or for that entire combat. So if you're really desperate, they can go into the incinerator and just like fire up the ship. I mean, so many cool things that we're really excited about. And once that's done, you repeat. It's the classic roguelike experience, but with your friends. Some final thoughts. My hypothesis is the streamable moments come from the many ways you can accidentally kill, airlock stuns, screw over your friends unintentionally, that chaos factor. But the depth comes from the combos, from the ship augmenter, and the runs. You know, you and your friends will do like a 30-minute run, and if it goes really well, or if you get just to the end but don't do it, you know, it's easy to pick up and run for 30 minutes and then come back. You could swap friends in and out, which would be fun. Now, I haven't really seen a lot of people do roguelike and co-op, so we don't know if that will work. We also don't know if like a really experienced player is going to have fun with an inexperienced player. If you know all the augments, if you know the whole deck inside and out, are you still going to be able to have fun with a newbie? I don't know. Games like Peak, like the depth is pretty shallow, and so everybody gets to that same level of skill really quickly. Lethal Company even more so. Like you just run around and pick up stuff. So that is on our mind. We don't really know. And scope. But you know, there's an audience out there who wants to try hard, who wants to actually like learn the skills and get good with their friends. So maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't. Who knows? And then scope is a big thing. You know, you can go big with this one, like too big. So finding that nice balance where we don't spend 8 years on a game and get a good game with the least amount of time is something that has me a little, not nervous, but something I'm super aware of. And that is Smugglers in Space.
Yeah, very cool. Very, very cool. My biggest worry is just how long, I mean, just, I don't know how hard multiplayer is to how much complexity it adds, because the game actually seems really fun. You could really do some really cool things. I think it would be
a ton of complexity.
Yeah.
But I think one of the cool things for us as a studio is every time we've taken on a new project, we learn something new. We don't go too far. So with Atrio, that was a pretty big jump. but we wanted to learn automation and we wanted to, move away from mobile and try like a actual deeper game. And then with Get to Work, we were learning 3D for the first time. And so every time we add that skill set, it becomes a lot easier to do those things. And then we tack on one more big thing to take on, which this time would be multiplayer.
But I'm hearing from chat that I could vibe code this whole thing in Grok in one weekend.
Yeah, true.
So I'll probably just knock this game out real quick with Grok, and we'll launch it on Monday.
I don't know why you even need us, which is crazy. Like, I'm just so appreciative that you entertain us, helping
That's
you.
Really kind of you to say that. What's the third idea?
The third idea is the rope. Let's talk about the rope, because the rope is again online co-op. Spooky, crafty, buildy game.
Spooky.
Some people may not know these games, but Choo Choo Charl meets Void Train. I'll explain all of it. Don't worry about it. But the idea is you upgrade your cart and traverse and survive the island. Now, this one we did not prototype, so you're really gonna have to use your imagination. Some stuff is wicked janky. I apologize in advance, but art style, I pulled up some inspirational images. We're not really sure, but I suspect it'll probably be semi-realistic. This one, totally unknown. I think for spooky games, first person is the way to go. We really gotta do first person. We were thinking it's a single playthrough experience, kind of like Raft, if you've played Raft, or The Forest. It's like you're discovering a story and stuff like that. So there's still like significant gameplay, but we're not really focused on a ton of replayability. There is a story. You've been barred from the church, and you've been given one last chance to restore your standing within the church, and that is to find and rescue Archbishop William. Now, ChatGPT pulled together this very serious, beautiful image, but we were actually thinking something significantly less serious.
Right, a little goofier.
There's these things called Roman tonsures. That little flappy haircut you see, I think they're so funny. And I could just imagine if we had like fake physics where you're like squatting up and down and like the Roman tonsures are like flapping, you and your boys with like, these goofy characters jumping up and down. So funny.
I do like the core branding of the studio being a bunch of bald characters every time. Going from Get to Work into this, having bald be iconic is it's bald representation is what it is.
We are actually, we might be 3 for 3. Because Atrio, the character, technically was bald.
Yeah,
was a robot, but we would be 3 for 3.
That's a big branding.
Doesn't help your image, doesn't help your chat, that's for sure.
I'm wearing a hat. Nobody
You
knows
put
I'm
that
bald
into the
enough.
universe. I'll have you know. You're responsible.
I put it in the universe. Chat spams bald nonstop, whether there's a bald person on screen or not. And I put it in the universe. It's me. It's on my fault. I probably invented coffee cow, huh?
It's not in my slides,
fault
brother.
They're saying glizzy.
So if you've been barred from the church, maybe you're in these peasantry outfits. I don't know. We'll get there. But I think the character design, there's a lot of good starting points. Now, you can't see it, but it says proximity chat is on. I think for all these spooky games, super important. Now, a little bit of context here because it's so janky. I wanted to show some like inspiration photos because the actual images you're going to see are basically just like blocks. So we were thinking the cart is just nicer, is just cooler than what I'm going to show you. It's like this obelisk. So you're going to see it on the cart. Imagine this like really beautiful but mysterious obelisk that has glowing letters. And the way the cart system works, you're going to see it's a little fuzzy, but we were thinking something like a ski lift or a gondola where they're attached to these like ropes. And so they can move around wheels and stuff. They move up and down. So this has been figured out, but again, you're going to have to really kind of use your imagination.
Sure.
You land on the island and there is a man in a hood, just cranking this wheel. He doesn't talk to you. He doesn't interact with you. He just constantly is moving the wheel and the rope attached to it. Yeah, he's absolutely shredded. He looks small, but he's so ripped.
He
doesn't say anything. He doesn't even acknowledge you. He's just pushing the rope. Your ship has crashed. You have nowhere to go. So you walk up to the rope and you discover a cart. Now this cart system, the way it would work is like kind of like a gondola. They can attach to the rope. They're not like, they don't get obstructed by, stuff that gets attached to them. So there's poles and stuff, throughout the entire level that kind of hold it up, but they're pretty far apart. Now you hop on the cart with your friends. Mm-hmm. And you travel. Unfortunately, there's a massive crevasse. There's nowhere to go. Cannot traverse the crevasse. You try, you'll fall. It's not strong enough to actually get across. It'll just like break and fall. So you travel to the left. Now, one thing I forgot to mention is imagine more of a fog. Like the rope just kind of travels into infinity. There's like big fog kind of on the left and the right. So you can't just like see far into the distance. A big part of like what makes it so fun and mysterious is this rope is just traveling infinitely.
Yeah, you don't know where
you're
going.
Yeah, you don't. You and your friends travel to the left. You don't see anything. You can't, you can't see across the crevasse, and you can't travel across it. Now, because it's a crafty building game, you open up your menu and see there's a cart upgrade. You can traverse valleys if you build this cart upgrade. So naturally, what do? You and your boys want to build this big cart upgrade that's going to let you travel across this massive crevasse. Now, obviously, you got to use your imagination. Imagine something more spectacular, much bigger cliff faces that look spectacular. I just drew this up really quickly, added some ropes. Or imagine there's like ogres, like glowing eyes in the background, so it's a bit scarier when you actually cross.
Sure.
Something definitely with more tension and atmosphere.
Yeah.
We want to focus on crafting. A big part of this is crafting. So building this upgrade, you can do a ton of different crafting. You can cook food, you can make torches, talismans. Because this is sort of like this fake religious, era in maybe the 1600s, we wanted to play on like the goofy, crazy, really wrong religious stuff that they used to think about, like, Ring Around the Rosie and how they used to like try and treat disease and stuff like that. We kind of want to play off that a little bit. I think that'd be kind of fun. We were thinking basic hunting tools and cart upgrades. That's a really big one. Right. Obviously, you want to upgrade the cart. We were also thinking that you're mostly defenseless except to hunt animals. I think a big part of the spooky, crafty sort of experience is you can't really defend yourself. A big part of it is like warding off creatures or, defending yourself, but really not attacking people.
Sure. So you can hunt like a small rabbit, but when the monster comes out, your little bow won't do anything.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Or maybe we have small monsters that you can fight, but like the really big stuff you cannot.
Yeah.
So you go exploring to the forest. I created fake mushrooms. Maybe you're picking up mushrooms. Maybe you're chopping trees. Maybe you're harvesting sticks. All of the classic stuff to build things. That's just a mechanic that everybody loves, that works really, really well. We have all the systems from Atrio. We have crafting menus. We have harvesting. Yeah. This is really a big part of our bread and butter. But a big part of this is atmosphere. I want you guys to feel like you're exploring a scary, spooky forest as these, Catholic bard priests. So as you're exploring the forest, you hear something rumbling in the dark, and a big, scary monster comes up to you. Now, if you're lucky, you can make it back to the cart in time, because the cart is the only place that keeps you safe. This mysterious obelisk, you can pray to it. And if you give it a sacrifice, we were thinking something, mysterious, like a rabbit's foot and 3 drops of blood and wheatgrass, then it'll create like this barrier on the cart itself to keep you safe. What's so cool about this, and Choo Choo Charles did this really, really well, is it creates this beautiful game design mechanic where the farther you travel, the more you're in danger. Because obviously if you're close to the cart, if the monster tries to attack you, you just hop in the cart and you're safe.
Right.
But we're not going to give it to you so easily. We're going to place the really good stuff farther away. So you and your friends are going to have to travel into the dark through the forest. And the farther you go, the more chances are if you run into the big bad guy, you're done. It's over. Super scary. And so you're always on edge trying to track this monster. Imagine there's like one really big monster. If he comes from the left-hand side, it's a little more safe to go right. But if you go really far, he can travel. And then you lose track of him. And then all of a sudden, you don't know where he is. Super scary. Or you get lost from your friends and he just disappears. Who knows?
I mean, even the idea of walking through the fog and proximity chat yelling to find your friends is really fun, Or if you hear somebody screaming in the distance, you're like, oh shit, I better run, get back to the cart.
And what's so cool about this is lots of games do this. You build a fort in Rust, you build forts in, other places. It's stationary. So you get used to that environment around you. You explore that and you become a master of that territory. And the farther you push out, the more you learn it. You keep pushing, the more you learn it, which is great. Except your base this time moves. So every time you traverse, you don't know the area. And so every experience is new, which makes it scarier. There's that moving safety net, this moving bubble just creates a totally different, unique experience. Now, what's cool is a big part of this game, and I stole this map from Choo Choo Charles, just want to show that. What's super cool about this is exploration is going to be a huge part of this game, like I mentioned before. This is maybe where the rope travels. Maybe there's alternate routes. We're not going to go crazy. I think it's really important to not have too many routes. But, imagine someone is controlling the cart and your friend is lagging behind. And it's like, oh, I'll just follow the rope. I know exactly where they go. And then there's 2 ropes going across, and then you're like, oh, shit. I don't know where they are. A lot of cool experiences that can come from this.
Yeah, for sure.
We're obviously going to place really interesting landmarks. Maybe there's, broken villages or altars or, this is boring ChatGPT generators. It's pretty generic. But I think a big part of this is our focus would be to create these unique places to explore that give you rewards and have stuff you can harvest and, give you big upgrades and stuff like that. Now, I had mentioned cart upgrades really important. What we would do is you have to upgrade the cart to travel to these different biomes. And so the game loop that you would be experiencing is, let's say you're in the sand pits. We traveled to the right. We couldn't travel across the crevasse. We traveled to the left. we couldn't travel across the crevasse, so we had to explore the sand pit and upgrade our cart, which then unlocks the cursed hoodoos. And that would give you access to more resources, which then lets you upgrade your cart, which then lets you go to the swamplands to get more resources, so on and so forth. And so every time you traverse, you get stronger and more powerful, and your team gets better, and your cart gets better. And then the goal, on top of that, the high level goal is to find these tomes, which then will lead you to, the bishop, and then will let you escape. So that's kind of the main mechanics of the game. And before I wrap up, we need to talk about cart upgrades because they're so important.
Okay.
We were imagining, if you've played Raft,
Yeah. I
it's
argued
kind of the
with
same
Stan's
thing
Love
where you,
for 3 hours about who's the captain.
a big part of this is like expanding your raft. You're going and finding pieces, then making it bigger. Maybe you can build vertical. Maybe you can have storage and all sorts of stuff. I think the experience will be somewhat similar. Maybe we'll have to make the cart bigger than what I showed. We'll have to figure that piece out, but I wanted to pull on some reference that you may know, and I thought Raft was cool because you're on this floating thing that's constantly moving. Cart upgrades that you can have: a bigger cart. I'm going to skip faster cart for now. Talk about more storage, also terrain. You got to travel to new biomes. That's that map that I showed you. And then the unique stuff. Crafting stations. Maybe you unlock the ability to smelt, so you get metal stuff. Maybe we do basic automation where, your smelter drops ingots and then the ingots get put into a chest. We wouldn't go crazy. I think that would break all the game balancing, so you wouldn't be, having splitters and stuff like that. But, we do have automation in our code base, so we can use that.
Sure.
It could be fun to, really play on the proximity chat. Maybe there's a loudspeaker on the card itself, so you can yell at your friends, but they can't yell back. That one line of communication.
Like a horn or something, so you could.
Yeah. Yeah. A sacrificial altar where maybe you get buffs and stuff. I think if we're going to play on the religious side of things, like that pseudo-religion, fake religion stuff. And then obviously, I think personalization is really important. I think people want to deck out their cart. They want to play it in copper and make it fancy. I think that'd be cool. We really want to emphasize the crafty, buildy personalization stuff. And if you manage to get to the end, you can travel through the island, grab the tomes, and then escape. That is the rope. And I want to talk about the biggest unknowns, because there are some. We're not sure, how the monsters are going to work. Our initial thought is maybe we'll have a bunch of smaller monsters. Maybe you can fight them. And then we'll have one huge monster. I think a lot of scary, spooky games, once you interact with the monster once or twice, the magic is lost pretty quickly. And so if there's only one monster, you lose that anticipation, that anxiety really quickly.
Right.
But if we have a bunch of smaller monsters, you can interact with them and not be bored. And then every time you interact with the big monster, it can be very rare. And that way the tension can always sort of be there.
Yeah, I mean, you really want the big
level.
monster to be almost certain death.
Yeah.
If he shows up and it's the huge thudding sound, then you want to feel truly scared.
We're not sure about scare level. I think this is a really tricky one to nail. There's a really small audience of people who like really truly scary games, but because this is co-op, we gotta balance that scare level, and we don't know where that line is. My gut is pretty low, not super scary. We kind of want it to be spooky-ish, or maybe there's a setting where you can
scary because chat is cowardly.
I think what's cool is if we do a really good job with the building mechanics, then we can get away with it not being super scary and focus on the fun aspect of just building and harvesting.
Yeah, Lethal Company scary, I guess, is the right amount to do it.
Yeah. We've never made a horror game before. Atrio was slightly spooky, but really not. So we don't know.
Yeah, it would be funny. I mean, to stand out a little bit. It would be funny to make one of these type of games where it really is scary.
And then people just lose it.
You'd have a smaller overall audience, but you would attract people looking for something a little more
intense
or different.
I think the other big one is we've done this pitch, obviously, to a bunch of people, and it's been pretty split. Some people are not super pumped about only playing it once. Roguelikes right now and replayability are pretty hot. And so a lot of people are very interested in a ton of replayability. I have no idea what it would look like. We could obviously explore it. I don't think it's impossible to change this to be very replayable, so a bunch of friends can come in and out. But the crafty buildy stuff really tends to lend itself to a more focused playthrough. I don't know. That one's on the table.
Okay.
But if it is single playthrough, how does death work? So we're not really sure. Maybe you have to sacrifice something to bring them back, or they're a ghost, and but there needs to be some sort of mechanic where you can bring them back.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I feel like it's not too hard to pivot this game into being replayable / roguelike.
Because I guess the way I think about it is the forest is not replayable. I mean, it's somewhat replayable, and people love that game. It's such a fun game just to play 10 hours with your friends and build a giant base. And then when you're done, you're done.
Okay, very cool. So we've got 3 pitches in the books: Mine the Mountain, Smugglers in Space, and The Rope. And chat, it is time for you to do your due diligence as faithful servants of democracy. Cast your votes!